Joining.
Here we go.
Here we go. Welcome, everyone. And I know if you're looking for Desi, she will not be here today unless she's able to get in on her phone also. Many of our Women in Drones contingent are over in Dublin, Ireland this week. And they are presenting at the Mobility Now and Drone Summit. So many of them are in travel status and having good old time, having some Guinness. And I know Kenny is at least. And then doing a panel over there. So they're going to be representing women in drones, which is awesome on the global front. And I already let Sharon know we need 2 jets, one for the Northern Hemisphere, one for the Southern. We can all get boogied around the world and do presentations. So she's on it. I know a guy in London. The jet guy. All right. So not only Sharon, but Luis is over there, Kim James, Patrice McCarliff. I'm sorry, Patrice, if I messed up your last name. We only knew each other by our first names down in DC. Bronwyn Morgan, Dr. Sumter. Some of you know her by LaQuanta. And then Annalisa Russell Smith are over there presenting for us and representing women in drones. And I'm sorry, Desi too, of course. Desi, I mean, that's why she's not here. So we're over there in Ireland, showing things and women over there. Apparently there's only like one certified lady. I don't remember what Sharon mentioned, but it was a disgusting figure. So hopefully they're enlightening some folks over there and allowing women to grow. And we also have our sponsor is On the Go Video. Oh my gosh, I see Desi's face. So Desi is our sponsor today on the Go Video. She is your drone training and coaching guru. So if you need any training in that regard, get in touch with On the Go Video. She's going to get you all squared away. Desi, are you able to say anything? And that's I don't know yet, but we'll see. If she unmutes, we're going to listen. But I hope you're having a Guinness. Or Kenny is, at least. That's all I'm going to say. So we are so lucky to have our speaker today, Mr. Bill Johnson, who I, again, was rude to earlier today, and I'm so sorry. And, his background is, I don't know his exact background, but it includes naval aviation and the Naval Academy, which I'm sorry, that blows my mind. It's amazing. Going to the Naval Academy just to visit is cool enough. So if you attended and graduated from there, oh my gosh. I mean, in any shape, form, or fashion. So I'm in awe of any graduate of any of those academies. Blows my mind every single time. And luckily, my nephew's in the Navy now currently. So I got a big soft spot for any naval folks. So and of course, oh, there's Desi's face. And of course, thank you for your service, Bill, and any veteran on this call. If you're currently serving, again, thank you. And yes, this is going to be so cool. Desi, what's going
Yes.
on in Ireland?
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. You could probably hear all the echo in the building here. It's so exciting and it's beautiful. I bet you didn't know this. There's a lot of green around here.
Heard about it. Yeah, heard about it.
Oh my gosh, it's just amazing. And castles. We've been able to go and look and see the castles. We're staying right here near the ocean. Oh, it's amazing. It's just
Did you
been
kiss the
amazing.
Blarney Stone yet?
No, no, haven't done that yet. I'll have to put that on my list, right?
Or the Book of Kells at the College of Dublin? You need to see that.
Did
That's
that today. Oh my gosh, it's amazing.
I believe.
Yes.
I had to do a
Yes,
paper on it in
awesome.
college. It was scarring, but yeah, I would love to see it. Yeah, that's
It's phenomenal, phenomenal. So thank you, Sheila, for taking over for me today. You're awesome. Bill, thank you very much. Thank you for everything. Have a good time, and I can't wait to watch the recording.
I
Say hi
did
to everybody.
record, so there, it will be there. So that's,
Okay.
yeah, even better. Yay. We'll have fun
Right.
over there
All right,
representing.
everybody. I will see you next week. All right.
Go Willie
Bye.
Jones. Whoop, whoop. All right. So no further ado. Bill is graciously, presenting for us today, and I cannot wait to hand this over to him and let him have the time. So thank you, Bill.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I always say it was my honor because I love being in the Navy. I love flying naval aircraft. I had 26 years in the Navy. Much of that was flying airplanes, tactical airplanes. I have over 3,600 hours, and it was a lot of fun. I always said that I went to sea or I went out to the squadron. I went to go fly on a hop or something like that. And I never went to work. It was only until after I left the Navy that I started going to work at Northrop Grumman. And there I did a lot of R&D work and that type of stuff. And so I was still in the defense industry. I was still helping out the Navy, but in a different capacity. And in 2020, I started my consulting service after I left Northrop Grumman. I finished up and transitioned to semi-retired life, but I took up the mantle of a consultant back into those people that were looking at the DoD space. And I also, for a short interim period, did a startup called Air Advisory that looked at the advanced air mobility market space and was a consultancy into that space. And I built a methodology to take information about different companies and sort of judge them on their ability to become feasible and viable in the marketplace. And after about a year and a half, I decided, that startups are hard. So I collapsed that back down. I took the information that I had learned about AAM for the 2 years that I was with it, and I incorporated it into my consultancy of SingleSeat. And now that's the other part that I do. And since 2022, I've been an advisor to Women in Drones on advanced aviation and emerging aviation technologies. So it's really great to talk to you about this. I've talked a couple of times to the Coffee Connection, and today I was hoping to discuss a little bit about the what to look for in 2024, kind of taking up where Miriam McNabb not left off, but giving me a good sort of focus area to talk about. So I'm going to share my screen and bring up my presentation, and I need you to enable it there, Sheila.
Let me look. I think it's under the video thing.
It's under share screen. It should be under share screen. And it allows you to select multiple participants can share. Or I might be wrong.
Well, let me look. If I click on your thing,
Yeah, see if it allows me.
yeah.
You highlight me or something. I think that's another way.
Okay. Right click. Please work. Where's it? Where
And if not, I can just sort of do what Miriam did. My presentation doesn't have any glitz to it. It just is kind of a way to keep me thinking through what we were talking about and let you look at the topic.
I found it. I found it. I found it.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Wait a minute. What? No, I don't want to share my screen. I need participant can share time.
It might even say advanced, and then under there you can go to multiple participants.
Okay. Okay. Right click on Bill's image and set him as co-host. Thank God someone put that in there. Okay. Here we go. Jennifer, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks,
I
Jennifer.
can do the talking
You're very
part, but I
welcome.
don't know how to do the, yes, thank
There
you.
we are.
That.
Yeah.
Yay. Okay. Oh, thank you, Jennifer.
Okay, so there we are. And I'm going to put that into presentation mode. I hope it works. There we go. And there's my info and you're capturing it on recording. So good stuff. And so some trends to watch in 2024, and I'll walk through these again. We don't have to get into all of them. Let's like in the past, if you could help me, Sheila, and keep up with, I can't see because I'm on my little laptop. I don't have my double screen that I usually do. I can't see the chat, so thanks. So we'll walk through these, sort of get a feel of what's coming up in 2024, what to keep an eye on. Some of these are the same as what we talked about with Miriam, in particular the FAA reauthorization, but I wanted to focus in on some of the things that are going to be really important and highlighted if it, and hopefully it will come to pass, and how it will impact AAM, and then the rest of these as well. Okay, there's the first thing is that there's the Summer Olympics coming up, and for about a year, Volocopter has been saying, hey, we're going to be the first to do commercial air taxi service with our eVTOL called the Air City, I think it is. Let me remember exactly. Yeah, it's Air City, and it's a two-person little, very, very difficult to call it full taxi because you're only going to be able to have a pilot and a one passenger. But it was going to be interesting. They were setting it up to go from several vertiports on the outskirts of Paris and bring people down into downtown Paris on the Seine, and then out to the Olympic venue. And I called it sort of that jetpack moment redone. Remember back in '84, that guy came in the jetpack and everybody said, oh man, maybe we'll all get one, you know, and that's how we'll fly around in the future. Well, that was 1984, and it hasn't quite come to pass, has it? Though we're getting closer, and we'll talk about personal air vehicles where there are single seat personal air vehicles that you can buy now that are electronically, or that are electrically powered, battery powered, and electric motor powered vehicles that are coming right now. They're available to you. So similar to that, but not quite. And the other thing is that in Paris, they've had a big problem. Volocopter ran into a big problem. One, they didn't get certified for their aircraft for commercial ops as quickly as they thought they would. And it's both political, and it's also the AESA was not moving as quickly as they thought in the certification process. They do have a draft for their certification of vehicles, but they haven't actually instituted the full certification process. The other, they have though gotten a permit to fly for a demonstration airplane, but not for commercial use. So they'll be able to take the press up. They'll be able to take celebrities that want to fly with them, that type of stuff, even athletes that want to go and look around, but they will not be able to charge for it. And so that's a bit of a bummer for them. Additionally, they're going to be really limited to one, I think, one air route that will go from an outskirts down to that landing area on the Seine that is on a barge. It's a barge vertiport that they've constructed just to show off. A lot of this came from a big, huge pushback by the public. The public was not really brought in as stakeholders. And this is something, a great lesson learned, that if you don't have the public on your side, you're going to have problems on getting operations with things that are new like this, particularly if you have any sort of noise issue. And you know from being drone pilots, there's people that get really upset when they hear the buzz of that drone going overhead. And if it's going overhead and back and forth, and it's sort of like the guy working on his roof. I have one working on their roof down the street, and you hear the guys sawing the slate roofing tiles, and it's a continuous noise, and it is bothersome. So they didn't talk to and get the people on board as to what was this air taxi about. They also didn't charge at the rate that a taxi charges. They were going to charge over $100 for one person to fly this route for about a 5-minute flight. Not very economical, and it wasn't going to be down to the regular taxi rider, right? They had also, in Paris, they had had a problem with the little e-scooters being left all over the place, apparently. And so people were upset with introduction of a new mobility standard that didn't have standards around it. And so they were very hesitant on this. Additionally, if you don't know France, and those over in the EU do know this, it's a fairly polarized political area right now, very similar to the United States. And when one group, the federal government that's in charge, wants to do something, and they really did, they wanted to make this, this is France being on the forefront of this new aviation thing. Well, there was other groups that said, not so fast, Bubba. You're not on my party. I don't like what you're doing. I'm going to do everything to block you. And so there's a political pull there that kind of gave them a real hard time. So I would point out for Volocopter, this is an issue that they need to, and everybody else that's in this space needs to really take into account. Who are the stakeholders? And the public and the community leaders and the state leaders and the tribal leaders are all part of that. I'll come back to that in a moment. And so it's not going to be quite as big as it was, but it is going to be something that I think will keep the momentum going. I just saw something on Good Morning America. The lift vehicle Helix was shown there, and that was on national news. It's the third or fourth time that I've seen something. Joby was on it a few months ago when they went to New York City, and there was something last summer that was on eVTOLs and all this. So this is going to be another way for the public to actually recognize that these things are out there and that they're coming. The next big thing to watch for is going to be the Department of Transportation was identified in an executive order that they were to set up an interagency working group that would bring information and the groups together, all the agencies that would be needed to support the advanced air mobility market. They stood up last February. Last summer, they made a call for public information to be brought in on. It was really a call, and actually my company, with the help of one of my with a colleague, we put in a fairly large white paper on what is it that a national strategy needs to take into account and why. And so we built that out. There were over 150, I think, inputs from various agencies like GAMA and the Advanced Air Mobility Institute, which was brand new at the time, put in a fairly extensive, very comprehensive input. And so I was actually contacted by the lead to this, Peter Irving is his name, and he asked me about mine because I, being a very small company, fairly agile on response, they were surprised at sort of the systems level information that I brought in, and it was very broad. They took into account in their ask for different information everything from what is the role of government in designating and helping deliver this type of capability. What is it that the public's going to be concerned with? What security issues do you have to be aware of? What infrastructure needs to be in place? They were asking all of those questions so that they have a very rigorous and very comprehensive national strategy at the end. What they have to do, and they're hoping to do it by August, is they have to report to Congress what they have found out. And so they had several different subgroups that have been feeding into it. They have been having meetings all last year. They had, I think, 9 different meetings. That they just had a meeting in January that was looking at what are the public opinions concerning vertiports, the siting of vertiports. How do you get them on board? How do you take their inputs? They took some information from AFWorks, which is the Air Force Research Labs group that helps look at commercial technologies and how they might help the military. They took a briefing from them on this digital operations center for autonomy. So they're looking at autonomy. they have set up these they have set up several different subgroups that look at different pieces to it, including including autonomy and supply chain and infrastructure. And so they're really making a strong push. You'll see, I think, a lot of information come out later in the year, and eventually it should build into a national strategy that for the U.S. to become much more of a leader in AAM than it has been, though, and to also institute the ground rules for not just the federal, but also the state, local, and tribal governments as to what are your responsibilities, what is your role in building up the AAM. And these are the links to those. If you want to go look at the site, it's a very well done site, and it will take you to the subgroups, the various meetings they've had, and what the report to Congress, which I highlight here on the right, will be asked and should be delivering. Anything in the chat yet, Sheila, that I maybe want to pause for?
Dave Messina had a question.
Sure.
And it says, might we add to things happening in 2024 in a NPRM for BV loss from the FAA?
Yes. And
Okay.
yep, exactly. And that's what I was getting up to. Perfect lead in, Dave. Thanks very much. Because the reauthorization bill, hopefully, it just got through the Senate's committee, and it is going to the Senate. It's supposed to be, voted on by the 8th of March, and then they'd have to go into conference, they'd have to finalize it, etc. But
Right.
yeah, that in there is a stipulation that
Yes.
they will have to come up with that
4
BV
months.
loss. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so that you can have a process so that you don't have to keep getting the waiver and the special FAR for your particular operations, right? And so this is a big deal to, again, Miriam mentioned it. It has big implications for UAS, but it also has large implications for the AAM sector as well. Some of the key provisions that Akin, I know that we all know about Akin and Jennifer Ritker and Sharana Saram were on talking about this a few weeks ago, and it's a great this recap, particularly for our group, is very, very well done. And I used that a lot in my research here, but I also went directly to the full bill from the Senate, which I think is trying to be in alignment with the House so that it can be moved through fairly quickly. But the key provisions are, modernizing the national airspace, which is important for both the UAS and the AAM. How do you bring in these new vehicles? Where are they going to fly? How do you control them? What's the ATC that's going to be required? They do establish a new office called Advanced Aviation Technology and Innovation. The UAS Integration Office that is in place now will come under that, and it will have this broader view of actually of implementing UAS and AAM into how do you do the rulemaking. They are the ones that will establish the type of rulemaking that will be necessary to institute advanced air mobility. It requires a new administrator for that office, and the administrator of FAA will have to report to the to Congress on how the implementation of UAS and AAM is going. In order to do that, the administrator has been given authority, will be given authority to set up a steering committee that drives the planning and the implementation. And then, as Dave pointed out, BV loss, they're within 6 months of the passage of the bill, they are to issue a proposed rulemaking establishing the certification path forward and establishing the certification process within 2 years. And that's for allowing for a company to come in and they know then, how do I get my BV loss? Right now, the FAA, as you probably are aware, are taking a lot of the lessons learned and the waivers that have been approved, and they're asking companies coming in, are you similar to this? And they will sort of use that as a template, and then they'll give them a very quick turnaround on the waiver. This certification process, I think, is gathering all the lessons learned from those waivers and should be able to move forward. I think before the 2-year limit that will be put into place, most likely when this bill passes. Any questions there? Yeah,
Yes. Dave, did you want to,
yeah,
if you want to unmute and add your comment in?
Yeah, I was just
Great.
going to add, Bill, that there are multiple stipulations from mandates for network remote ID, and of course a requirement for the unmanned traffic management. However, for those of us in recreational, we feel this will be devastating, and it will put an enormous burden to any 107 pilots as well. So
yeah.
fun and games will come from that, we're sure.
Yeah, really good point. I have that down here that the UTM was established an approval process for third-party service providers, and that has to be done fairly quickly. They also, I noticed that with BV loss, because I think BV loss for drones is going to be a big deal for AAM for autonomous operations in the United States. China is doing it already. However, in this, the language states unmanned aircraft, not uncrewed. So that means that it's only the drones and not the autonomous AAM passenger aircraft like Wisk, which is a company that Boeing owns, that is trying to do an autonomous air taxi service. That's a piece of it.
You're stipulating that you think there's a distinction between unmanned and uncrewed. I would assert that one is just gender neutral and that they are a very unusual situation in exact synonyms.
Yeah, I hope so, Dave. I don't know though, because I have a feeling that someone might hold that to saying you can't have a person on board the aircraft, and that's what unmanned means. And so we'll see. I hope that that's not true. I like you. I would like to say that it's just a gender neutral terminology, or a common terminology, if you will.
Yep.
The last part is that I had was Congress's sense is also listed at the very beginning of this. It's called Congress's sense. And that is what they want this bill to try to do and what they expect of the FAA. And they want to establish a rule that the U.S. should be the leader in this space. And they want a rule committee created within 180 days of this to start the type certification process for a powered lift vehicles, which is the vast majority of eVTOLs that are coming on the market. People like Joby and Archer and Vertical and Lilium and all of those, they have powered lift, and there's a definition in there on it, and it's any of the tilt rotor styles, any of the tilt wing, anything that has a lifting service for when it's flying in a horizontal fashion that allows it to lift that way, and anything that powers it vertically by propulsion force, that's a powered lift vehicle. And so they want something in place within a year after the established of a report that comes from the rulemaking committee, which the rulemaking committee has to do the report 180 days after the bill. Then a year after that, they want to have a path forward and a recommendation on the path forward for powered lift certification, which is a big deal. And the rulemaking committee will also be including things on about how do you certify the electrical components and the vehicle itself. So electrical engines, hybrid electric engines, and hydrogen combustion and hydrogen fuel cell powered vehicles. So very interesting that they're taking in all the pieces that are necessary for true certification of these vehicles.
To ask about that part, Bill, because you know a lot more on it than I do.
Sure.
The certification part, could some of these eVTOLs be like experimental and then the other ones be certified, kind of like the aircraft
Yes,
are?
and that is the way that it is right now. There are plenty of eVTOLs that are flying right now. Joby and Archer have them. They're under SFARs, and they are. And right now, the way that they will be certified, they get their manufacturing certified, they get their operations, their commercial operations certified in the normal way. But for the aircraft itself, it's a airworthiness certificate for each aircraft right now, and then it is a type certificate, and the pilots flying them have to be type certified on that particular style airplane. So they can't fly just any old eVTOL, and they can't fly any particular aircraft at this point, or any one of the aircraft in that particular series. They have to be type rated for that particular aircraft. So it is very limiting at this point.
You say that and it makes me think of Airspeeder down in Australia.
Yeah, Airspeeder
Because
is part of this.
perfect, because I know that they send their pilots to all different kinds of trainings and
Yeah,
you
they
know,
do.
I don't know if they get certified technically with everything that they do, but they've been in
Yeah,
jets and
they are under a different rulemaking set
Mhm.
because they are a light support aircraft, pretty much, or a wreck airplanes, and they are in the United States. There are a couple of, and I'm going to bring that up. There are a couple of aircraft manufacturers that are selling these personal air vehicles that are single seat, and they are under the what's the name of it? Uh, it's a you don't need a license, and it's gosh, I can't remember the name of it. They used to have little push motors, and they were almost parachute gliders, powered parachute gliders. What's the name of those type of vehicles? I can't
Oh,
remember
like
right
big
now.
fan on your back thing with
Right, right.
I just saw it on YouTube. I don't remember the name of it though. But yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
know what you mean.
those vehicles do not require a license, and they can be flown in recreational certs in particular areas. Um,
Parasail. Dave solved it. Parasail.
Carousels, and uh, there's another name though in the FAA form, Dave, for small
Ultralight. Johnny threw in
ultralights. That's
ultralight,
it, ultralights.
light sport
And,
Ultralight.
and
aircraft.
they
Yes.
and they all fall under light sport aircraft.
Nice.
Yeah, light sport LSAs,
Yep.
and so that's where I think Airspeeder is going to go as well. They've talked about, and they were at Oshkosh this last year, and they described they're going to be selling for recreational use, possibly even for people like ranchers to go out to their outer, the out 40 acres where they have to fix a fence or something. They can fly out there, they can land, they can do the work, and they can fly back. Um, they don't have a huge amount of payload in them, probably just enough for a person and maybe a toolkit bag, but they're designed to have fun. And we'll talk a little bit more about them, but there's a few of them out there now, and they're actually selling airplanes or air vehicles, I'll call it. Up next, you will see the major OEMs and companies that are going to start moving the completion cycle of their certification process. Joby's the furthest along in the United States. I'll skip down to EHang. EHang is a Chinese company that has a two-person vehicle also. It is autonomous, and it is controlled by a ground station, very much like a drone, a multi-vehicle controller and they have been certified by the Civil Aviation Authority of China back in, I guess they got it maybe in November or October. They are very limited into rural areas, but they can do tourism flights, and they started the first flight, paid flight was in December. So they've captured sort of that milestone for AAM. Again, how much is transferable to the United States? Pretty much nothing. How much is transferable to the EU? Pretty much nothing at this point. They have to go through the rigor of the EU, EASA, and FAA and CAA and other places. They are looking to go down into EHang is looking to go down to South America and into Africa quite a bit. But they're on a great path for that. I mean, they're learning lessons right now with their autonomous operations. Very small return on or revenue, and they're going to have to charge fairly extensively for tourist flights, pretty much. Joby has just completed its third in a series of 5 stages for the FAA type certification for their aircraft called Midnight. I'm sorry, not Midnight. Theirs is the SA4, and they're starting the 4th stage this year, which is really complete tests and analysis for FAA to watch, and it's on every component of their systems as well as the entire aircraft. So they'll be probably by the end of this year ready to go through final certification step and be certified next year. And they have their ground ops certified. They have their Part 104. Is that what it is? They have their commercial license, so to speak, to operate commercially. And they are a vertically integrated group. Joby is. They supply the aircraft. They're going to supply the operations and be part, as well as the operations for flying. So they aren't going out to other people, though they do have they are partnered with United Airlines, and they are probably going to be part of a combined process of moving people from outside of an airport and flying to an airport and dropping you off. You do all of the work out in the outer regions, away from the airport and the traffic congestion around airports. Archer is one of the big competitors to Joby in the United States. This is the only photo I have because this is the only one that I could allow that was free to copy from their website. They also have a very similar design. They recently settled a dispute with Wisk, which is the autonomous organization that I talked about under Boeing, and they are now working with Wisk after Wisk had for 2 or 3 years been under litigation with them for having stolen all of their IP to build their aircraft. A lot of the engineers that started up Archer were at Wisk first, Kidiak back then, and they had brought a lot of information with them. And so that has been settled. Boeing is now bringing them together, and I think Archer is going to be the manned version that will step out first. And they have worked a deal with Delta, so they're in partnership with Delta, and they are moving through their 2nd stage of the authorization. They are beginning 4-credit flights for very much similar to what Joby just completed as far as their certification. And they finished the 1st phase of their flight test, was completed on the 31st of January, and they're going to push on through 4-credit flights late in 2024. And then phase 3, which Joby just completed, is simulating commercial routes, and that's the way that Archer is moving. I talked about EHang. They are moving. You'll see probably more of them on their commercialization of their flights and full certification in urban areas, I would imagine, sometime at least starting that process this year. Eve Air Mobility is a company that is a subsidiary of Embraer Air. They are looking to finalize their design work out of Brazil. They are working on from the National Civil Aviation Authority of Brazil to finalize the criteria, and they're going to get public consultation on a draft that was put forward in December for their aircraft as far as certification process for them. And then sometime this year, the certification will be published. The certification process for Brazil will be published, and they'll start into that down in Brazil. That's where Embraer is out of. There's a huge market in Sao Paulo, is the largest, most densely populated helicopter operations in the world. And so Eve is probably going to start there. And then they are also looking to start operations in southern Florida, between Miami and Orlando. And so they are trying to probably work a co-authorization with the FAA to see if what they do down in Brazil will be useful and allowable up in the FAA. Probably will not happen. The other one I have down there, SkyDrive, is looking to finalize their authority and certification for their vehicle. It's a fairly small vehicle called SkyDrive. And that's with the Japanese aviation authorities. That's in preparation for Expo 2025 at Osaka. So you should see some certification work there. And then Lilium has been working on certification for their vehicle in the EASA, and they're reviewing and have their design organizational approval. They've had that and their G1 from the FAA. They're looking to go a co-validation process between EASA. So they'll go through EASA, and hopefully that will be validated by the FAA as well. They're doing internal flight tests in Spain this year, and you should see that continue. And then the actual certification flight tests for EASA will be leveraging the lessons learned there, and that may start at the end of this year or early next year. So the drones, I consider the mid-mile drones and even some short haul logistic drones as part of the AAM movement. Most of these that I have listed here, Mighty Fly and Elroy and Dufour and Saberwing, are hybrid electric. So they use an internal combustion engine or some sort of electrical generator inside the aircraft that burns fossil fuel or synthetic aviation fuels to generate electricity for electric motors. Mighty Fly and Elroy are the farthest along, I would say. Saberwing is pretty far as well. Mighty Fly and Elroy have very similar concepts where they have autonomous landing and loading capability onto their aircrafts, and then they can take off and they can fly. They land, they drop off their payloads, and then they leave the area. So it's very much, you can take it right to the site that needs whatever the payload is and drop it off. And they're fairly large payloads. They're up to, I think, close to 800 pounds, 500 pounds, I think, for Mighty Fly and Elroy. Saberwing holds the record with 865 pounds, something like that, on their aircraft. They did a vertical hover test with that size payload earlier or late last year, and they are moving forward. And Dufour Aerospace is a fairly large payload as well. All of these are looking to go, upwards of 500 miles with their aircraft, so that they need BVLOS, and that's going to be an important part as that goes through and is instituted in the United States. So Mighty Fly just unveiled their third generation aircraft. That's probably their production model. They did some updates to the design to allow it to be more fuel efficient, and that they'll conduct tests of that aircraft starting in late June, and hoping to get a qualification test plan in place. They are using their own internal aircraft to do some work in Michigan, where they have a good relationship with the Michigan Department of Transportation and commercial entities there at the state level, and they're going to be doing some autonomous cargo deliveries there. Elroy Air is working hard with primarily the military through AFWorks, and they are hoping to do some transition aircraft transition and final large scale testing of their aircraft in the AFWorks and it's called TAFE program, where they transition and do cruise and systems identification work in this year. Didn't hear what Dufour or Saberwing are actually planning for this year, but they are in the mix, and I know that Saberwing is working hard to move forward with theirs to become more operationally on pace to get some revenue, because they need some cash influx, I believe.
Don't we all? Just
Yeah.
wanted to let you know.
Sure.
It's
Go ahead.
12:49, Bill. That's all. If you wanted to
Yeah, I noticed that.
touch on something.
I'm coming towards the end of it. Hydrogen as an energy source, we should watch for progress there. Hydroplane is a small company that Dr. Anita Samgupta, one of our Hall of Fame winners for the Women in Drones Awards. She is the CEO of that. She has been doing some really small, for general aviation, a hydrogen fuel powered cell that can fit in the front end of a single engine general aviation aircraft. She's already flown it a couple of times, I believe, and she's going to continue flying this year. So watch for that. Airbus has done an initiative called Zero E, where they are looking at blended wing body aircraft at the size that would be able to compete with current commercial aircraft, large body aircraft. So they're looking to use hydrogen as the fuel for that. A blended wing body aircraft. I just put this on my LinkedIn account. There's a great article out there about blended wing body airplanes that they're looking at that can really have the volume that you need for containment of hydrogen, liquid and gaseous hydrogen, that would allow them to do thousands of miles of flights with hundreds of people in the body. And then there's a company called Zero Avia that has been really at the forefront of large, I'll call it mid-mile regional type of aircraft with 600 kilowatt generating powered fuel cell systems. They put it on a Dornier aircraft and they've flown it last year. I expect that will continue on. They're trying to move forward to a heavier weight, something over 1,000 kilowatts, that would really allow for very, very large, much larger aircraft, the size of 19 to 20 passenger aircraft being moved by hydrogen fuel cell electric power. Very interesting work here is going on. That should be something to watch. And finally, on the business side, and this is the last part that I have, things to watch is that the investments are slowing down. There used to be, back in 2020 to 2021 and through about 2022, there was a huge amount of SPACs, they were called, special ways to get money into startups. That has tailed off dramatically. And so now it's gone back to the regular Series A, Series B funding. You have to get investors to do that. And so there's some aircraft groups that have been around for a while that are in a hard place with low cash reserves to continue out their certification process. Two of them that I highlight here, Lilium that I discussed, they're trying to get through it. They have enough cash probably for, I think I saw something around 12 months. Ideation is another one that is a electrically powered regional air mobility aircraft that has had very low amounts of cash. They're very good designs, but I look at them as possible mergers and acquisition candidates for people like Embraer or Boeing or somebody like that want to get into the regional air mobility market with these type of aircraft, and they could have the wherewithal in the background to do this. And so I see some mergers and acquisition occurring in the near future, possibly starting this year. One that did occur was that one with Archer and Wisk combining together under Boeing. So that's something to keep an eye on. There will be a lot more work on infrastructure, I think, this year. Vertiports and knowing that you have all these airplanes out there ready to go fly, but you don't have any place to land them really that has electrical charging systems that are compatible for them, that have the necessary landing certification standards. And so the FAA is working on it. I know that down in Australia they're working on it. And I think I know that also the UK is working on it. That one of the things that is happening here too for infrastructure, there is a standard for electrical charging systems. Part of it is it's called the CCS. That is the kind of universal charging system that has come up and been floated. Archer has it. Beta Technology, which is a big company, has it. Joby, on the other hand, is developing their own universal charging system. So it's sort of like the IBM and Apple conundrum, or the Tesla and everybody else type of charging system. I think we're going to see a big battle here in 2024 to figure out what is the real standard for those charging systems so that they can be implemented in time for the timeline that the FAA has put out, which is 2028 is the beginning of UAM operations, urban air mobility operations out in LA. And then the initial market. We talked about these personal air vehicles that are under the light support aircraft. So there's several out there. The ones that I highlight are Lyft, Droney, Pivotal, Aska, and Airspeeder. They're generally one, sometimes two aircraft or persons in the aircraft. They have very limited mileage, but Pivotal has already sold one of their aircraft and they are in productions, and they sell for $190,000 to $260,000, depending on the kit that you get for them. So they're less than a general aviation aircraft. They fly for about 20 to 30 minutes. They're exciting. They're sort of a laid back, very futuristic looking aircraft with four quad. It's a quadcopter sort of design. Really interesting. I think general aviation, Pipistrel has electric trainer aircraft. I think you're going to see some more of that. I know that Dufour is also in EASA. They're trying to get through a certification of a trainer aircraft that's got an electric engine in it. And then regional air mobility, I think, is going to start to pick up. And there is work in the FAA to look at how do we get more emphasis on the regional markets and bolster that market. I think that you're going to see some regional air mobility movement from hybrid propulsion type of aircraft, Heart aircraft, Horizon out of Canada, and Electra in the United States. Electra has a really cool aircraft, a very short takeoff and landing aircraft. And so they're going to be there. Recreation and tourism will be the way that you make money on it early on. And that is all I have.
It's awesome, Bill. Yeah, I'm just envisioning not only like the pilot that has to be certified, but also ground crew. I mean, I don't know if they get
Yep.
certified, but I mean, they have to know how to maintain these.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. The technicians, etc. One of the ways I see, one of the big things that's coming up is the Mosaic. That is that's been through or started the process. Mosaic was looking at how do you certify pilots, and it expands out some of the light support aircraft definition to more than one person in the aircraft. It allows for a heavier aircraft. It allows for pilots to get into those aircraft, and you start flying. You get time in aircraft then, so you can train through that. It may get more people to fly. It may also get people thinking about maybe I can do a career in this. There is a lot of emphasis out there on training for eVTOLs. I know that CAE is working on that. They have put out several years ago their ideas of how to train for this. There are trainer airplanes coming forward, small airplanes that you could train in eVTOL style. And there's also that same Mosaic talks about technicians and how do you get your technical licensing and trying to expand that so that you can start to fill the personnel gap that is out there.
Huge. And like you
Yeah.
said, the infrastructure to be able to fly it to a second location and actually charge it there and then fly back home. That's
Right.
kind of
That's a
key.
big deal, right?
Yeah, not able to just
So
10 minutes and then 10 minutes and yeah.
yeah, that would be no
Yeah.
fun, really.
No, I mean, it would be for about 20 minutes, but other than that, not really. Yeah, just
Hey, I'm sorry that I didn't realize that I was going to speak that long. Any more questions? I know we're kind of at the end of it.
I don't have any in the chat. Everyone is saying thank you and great presentation and very cool. And yes, but no further questions from what Dave and thank goodness Johnny was able to throw in what in the heck we were trying to come up with there for a minute. Just
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
yes,
And I
definitely.
hope it was interesting. It was a bit of
Yes.
my musings and my ideas from having watched the industry now for a little bit. And I hope that if you have any counter arguments, I'd love to have that discussion. So please look me up on LinkedIn and send me a chat.
I just found it interesting because I got to meet Lexi Jansen with
Yeah,
their
she's
speak.
great.
Oh my gosh, she's amazing. But she was letting me know that, they put her in the jet and they did the G-force thing on her and all that, and then the
Yep,
helicopter. And then I saw her recently in one of the arm things where she's trying to fly by
yep,
herself.
right,
So
right.
they're trying to touch on so many different things because there is no standard
There's no
certification
standards yet. Yeah, so
that
we
they're
need
trying to come
to.
up. Yeah.
There have been people trained in the military for powered lift airplanes, right?
Okay.
So the Osprey, the Harrier jet, and so they can take those lessons and try to expand them, and they have started to do that in this mosaic and in some of the FAA language for powered lift aircraft and certification of pilots in powered lift aircraft. So that's moving along.
Well, I mean, there is that, like you said, the Osprey, it's existing. You launch one way and you go the other way. And
That's
it's
right.
like that's kind of existed for many decades. I don't know how long
Yeah,
the Osprey's
yeah,
been
that's
around,
right.
but it's like, can't you transition that? Well, apparently not. You need to take bits from each,
Yeah.
discipline and then throw them all together. So, which is fine. But it's quite interesting. I didn't realize all that till I sat down with her and oh, you got to do all that. Okay, I get it now. That makes sense. That's very interesting. And
Yeah, it is interesting.
yeah,
The Helix aircraft that Rob Marciano on Good Morning America flew, they actually do about an hour ground training with someone. It's very much intuitive where it sounds like it. I haven't been in the airplane, but it sounds like you push one way and it lifts, and the whole flight control system, computer generated, computer controlled, is geofenced. You can't go outside of a particular area. You can't try to crash. Once it gets above a particular height, you can't go down below it, and you can't go above 30 feet. So it is limited, and the pilot just simply says, I want to go that way. You push on the stick and it starts flying that way, and you push back and it'll go backwards, or you rotate it by turning the stick a little bit one way or the other. So it's very, I think that with computer generated flight control systems or computer aided flight controls, you're going to be able to get a much simpler way to fly airplanes. And we're seeing that in even more complex airplanes. But I think that that is what's going to allow for easy training and easy step into aircraft. I think that what's going to have to happen is the Pilot Association, AOPA, is very much against the reduction of the amount of hours for certifying a commercial pilot. I think right now it's 1,000 hours in order to be certified or something like that. And they don't want to take away, you have to fly, right seat or in instruction for so many hours before you can actually be piloting control in a commercial aircraft. That delays people. It costs money. And so people run out of money trying to get their commercial pilot's license, and that's holding them back. Understanding and figuring out how we can train them is a key part because now you're expanding. And I I have a number. It's something like you currently have a shortfall of 100,000 pilots, and by 2030 or something like that, you're going to be a shortfall of 400,000.
Mhm.
And so you need to find a way to bring pilots into this. And that's not to say the technicians in this very very technical type of part of aviation, even more technical than the current jet aviation, I would say, is going to be tough to is going to be a challenge.
Mhm.
Not tough to overcome, can be overcome, I think, with time, but it'll be tough to get there early on.
Yeah, and it's difficult because we don't have as many aviators coming out of the military as we used to either. So, I mean,
That's
that's
true.
also,
That's
and the more
absolutely
they
true.
turn to drones, the less
Yes,
manned
bingo.
pilot, experienced pilots that we have. And coming, from Buffalo, it's the folks here that went for
Yeah,
the extra training hours that, fought for all that because of
that's
that
right.
horrible
Exactly.
crash. But
Yeah.
it's brutal. I'm gonna go March 6th and try and get some kids interested in getting some piloting
Yeah.
going. And
Yeah, Sharon and I are going
it's
down to FUI, to Florida, or FIU, Florida International University, for
nice.
discussions with engineering students down there for
Nice.
exactly this.
Mm-hmm. We need them. Absolutely.
And
Well,
we need
we
women.
went over, but
Yeah,
yeah, it went
I,
great,
I
Bill.
want to say we are missing out on about 50% of the women's population right now. We have about 23 in drones, right? 23% are in drones, thereabouts, but it's much less in commercial piloting and general aviation. And
Mhm.
so you're losing out on a huge manpower pool that we need to get in there. And the diversity of effort changes and helps buoy the industry as well. So I think that's one of the places that we really need to go into.
And the fact that like Alaska Airlines, United, they each have their own pilot training programs now
Johnny, I like
versus
that.
pulling from the military like they used to be able to do, which is yeah. So it's
Yeah.
yeah.
But then on the other hand, we may be able to shift to autonomous operations. Even commercial operations may be able in the future to shift. Right now, pilots get in there and there is the ability for on Airbus, I know, they push a button that says take me off, and they have the layout of the airfield they're on. It taxis them out, lines them up on the runway. They take off on GPS, they go to their destination, they land, and they very much are just watching the system and on top of the system in case they need to make an update, because of weather or because air traffic control asks them to. But if we can institute in the national airspace something that has AI backing, that is, a robust sensing system from the ground and the air, we may be able to do this very safely in an autonomous way. And therefore, you don't need pilots in the cockpits. You can have older gentlemen or ladies sitting on the ground in, operation centers, like they were talking about, that digital operation center that AFWorks is trying to work on for autonomy. That's exactly why they're doing it, so that you can control many, many aircraft. We have ATC controllers controlling many, many. What if they could do it digitally by sending commands right into the flight control computers and helping them fly that airplane, and you have maybe one person instead of two sitting in the cockpit overseeing and making sure that the system is running, the way it's supposed to.
So
It's the
many.
future of aviation, right?
Yeah.
We're talking
Yeah.
about, and it could be going anywhere. But it has to be safe and it's going to go slow. So
Very. Yeah. And if the United States wants to be out front, they better start getting out front because they're not there.
true, very
Yeah.
true, particularly in the drone industry, right? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that too. We didn't even touch on that, but yeah, I mean, little bits, but yeah, just yeah. Uh-huh. Well, thank you, Bill. It was great.
Sorry I went over, everybody. Thanks for hanging in there, those that did.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
those that were able to for sure. Absolutely. And I hope everyone has a fantastic day. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Enjoy that beautiful
And
blue
save the
sky.
chat.
Oh, that looks lovely. Yes. little cool, but lovely. Save the chat, everyone. Yes, please do not forget to do that if you're able to. And I'm going to do that right now so that I'm able to send that to Johnny and Desi. Yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you all. Have a fantastic day. See you next week.
See
Ireland,
you later.
come back safe. Bye, Louise. Bye, everybody. Bye, Johnny. Thank you.
That kind of wraps it up.